very warm welcome. You're watching News 9. This is our weekly podcast, which we call the Weekly Brief. And I would like to introduce the two regulars who join me every week on this show. Rakesh Khar, editor of News 9, and Mr. R. Sridharan, editor, International TV 9 Network. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time. And what a fascinating week, if not a fortnight it's been. So I think the Weekly Brief is actually this week, at least the first segment, would be the fortnightly brief of what we saw unfold in Venezuela. And we thought that we had seen this flavor of Donald Trump earlier, remember the Panama Canal. And then, of course, there was this friction between Maduro and Trump, which was visible all through. But nobody really expected or anticipated that 3rd Jan, Delta Force is going to go in, pick up a serving president of a country, and he's gone. The regime changes. You promote the vice president and says that you better listen to me, otherwise I'm going to make your life difficult. Shri, what was the end objective, or is there no one end objective? Because one would have assumed regime change, but that doesn't seem to be the case. In the press conference immediately after the news broke, Donald Trump also said that it is going to be a US-led sort of government which is going to be running Venezuela. In fact, that is his exact quote, that US is going to run Venezuela. And he promotes the vice president. And then, of course, he declares himself on his Truth Social the acting president of Venezuela. What happened?
So, Karthik, a lot of people believe that this is about Venezuela's oil. No doubt, Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, 300 billion barrels. Yeah. But I think it's more about US taking control of its own backyard. As we know, for the last 2 decades, more than 2 decades, China had been making its presence felt in Venezuela. It was not only running the oil infrastructure in Venezuela, it was also running its roads, its telecom infrastructure. And it gave China a foothold, a proximity which was not comfortable for US.
Correct.
Literally 1,700 kilometers away from, the US shores. So it is something, it's a sign which Donald Trump had to tell to the world at large that, US backyard is not for sale, or it's not up for grabs.
Right.
It is US territory, and we're going to take control of the territory.
Right.
And so to my mind, this is the largest, signal which Trump wanted. Of course, there's the issue of drugs coming in from Venezuela, which I think is a smaller part of the whole problem. But it's about US reasserting, taking control of its own backyard.
All right, so US taking control of its backyard, but there's a lot more to read into it. It's not just the southern part of let's say where United States is. It's pretty much the entire Monroe Doctrine, which is back in play, as we can see. I think in 1823, if I'm not mistaken, was the year the Monroe Doctrine was formulated. But it's pretty much the entire 1/4 of the world, from west to east, from north to south, and that is where the story of Greenland also comes in. So is in your educated opinion, Rakesh, is the story going to be limited to Venezuela, partly some action in Cuba, or do you think, seeing how Donald Trump has been operating in his second presidency, will he go all guns blazing into Greenland as well?
Karthik, I think Donald Trump is as expansionist as he can get. I mean, there's nobody stopping him from expanding his wings either side of the, of the global order.
Right.
And I don't think any geography is determinant to him. So he is keen to expand as much as he wants. You mentioned some countries. I think tomorrow there could be another set of countries.
Right.
Wherever he feels he has a strategic interest, he's walking into that area, whatever be the repercussions.
Right.
We know Venezuela, he walked in without any repercussions as of now for America. But I guess the global public opinion, including in America, doesn't see this as a great sign of a great democratic country.
Right.
But who cares?
Right, who cares? Well, of course, I think the message is pretty clear, and Donald Trump says it himself that he's going to do everything he can in the interest of the United States. In the interest of the United States, Sri, is also the question of the petrodollar. Do you think the petrodollar conversation would have pretty much, become obsolete had it not been for, let's say, Venezuela's stated interest in joining BRICS? Is that something which is at play here again?
So before I get to the petrodollar bit, I'll just quickly add to what Rakesh said. I think Greenland is going to be a different cup of tea for US.
All right.
Because the moment you try and take control or seize Greenland, then you're pretty much declaring the end of NATO.
Right.
And your alliance with the
unofficially
West
is
is going to
already
like,
And that's already happening, because the French government has put boots on the ground. They are doing a military exercise.
Yeah, but
in fact,
that's
even
against
Germany has
Russia
sent
and
in.
China. It's not about like,
Sure, but
US.
Donald Trump saying, and we will come back to petrodollar, but saying on Greenland, Donald Trump pretty much saying that if he doesn't move in first, then China or Russia will move in. Are China and Russia going to really move into Greenland?
No, but
they're using it strategically because access to US and access to
China
that part of
and
the world is
Russia
easier.
are the two facades that Trump is creating.
Right.
They have a history history of creating facades in Iraq and, Gaddafi, we have a history.
Right.
So US is always, so drugs in Venezuela. So we really don't know from what Trump is doing and the way he's succeeded in doing it, it looks like the entire world is complicit, including India.
Right.
So Greenland is just, it's about a lot of things. On the one hand, it is about strategic control and being able to control the traffic. As the ice melts in the Arctic, you'll have more of the traffic flowing through it. The ability to, in case there's an attack from Russia, the ICBMs can be, picked up earlier, spotted, alerted.
And the entire golden dome that...
and then the mining, everything, of course.
So, I mean, there's the economic
25% of world's rare earths are there.
But from a pure national security standpoint, I think that ambitious Golden Dome project which Trump had announced, I think Greenland is going to be absolutely strategic in safeguarding the entire North American skies against any potential attack, either from Russia or theoretically even from China.
Outpost for US.
So Russia and China continue to be an important factor in determining how Trump behaves.
Right, absolutely. So again, I think it comes back to the same sort of theories that once started off with, that everything that Donald Trump is doing as part of his foreign policy, or rather economic policy, if you look at tariffs economically, is pretty much trying to thwart the potential repercussions if Russia or China were to try and gain US's spot as being the true leader of the world. But back to petrodollars, Shri. Petrodollars, the conversation was dying down. One would have assumed that, it's not going to resurface anytime soon. But Venezuela specifically, is it to get petrodollars back in?
So very specifically, China was the largest buyer of Venezuelan oil.
Yeah.
And what China was doing, it was paying them in their own currency.
Yeah.
And in return for the investment that China was making, the money that China would pay to Venezuela for the oil, that would be parked in designated accounts, which first went to servicing Chinese debt. Okay, so in some sense, Venezuela had willingly handed over its national resources to China, which in the pretext of building, let's say, the infrastructure, was taking the money from Venezuela.
Right.
So that was obviously an issue, but I don't think the conversation around petrodollar or the de-dollarization conversation has really gone down, because we are aware that BRICS bridge is like already in some fashion happening, and Brazil, Russia and all the countries which are including India, they're looking at dealing in either their own local currencies or central bank digital currencies, which will be a part of the BRICS bridge.
Right.
So I think there is a long-term, a move from countries to reduce their dependence on dollars and do their own trades, and out of the SWIFT system, which the US controls.
That's right.
So the BRICS is at the BRICS bridge is actually part of that. Move to make sure the transaction can happen outside of SWIFT system. But I think we are still decades away from replacing the dollar.
BRICS currency is a far cry as of now. It's it's on the horizon. India, incidentally, is becoming the chairman of the BRICS now.
That's right.
So even in the Indian context, I don't think de-dollarization is one of the top stated agenda.
Yeah, actually, this year the BRICS presidency is with India.
Exactly. So I think in the larger realm of currency, and it's also in the realm of discussing Trump, Rial, the Iranian Rial, has pretty much declined to a nil value, right? Its value is zero. I think fear was pretty ripe some part of the week that Donald Trump will potentially send US military and strike Iran. But now we saw a little bit of retreat, saying that the killings have at least stopped. That is what the White House official statement is, that killings in Iran have stopped. Protesters' killings have stopped. But we are recording this on a Friday. Right. I think our viewers are going to be watching us over the weekend. Do you think things could change over the weekend? Do you think there is still a chance that US may go ahead and send military and do a kinetic action in Iran, given that there have been advisories issued not just by US but also by India to avoid the Middle East right now, including Israel?
That's right. Nobody can predict Trump, and the more we start planning and scheduling his actions, he behaves on the contrary.
Yeah.
So there is India must actually take a lot of interest in what's happening in Iran. Venezuela also we have interest. ONGC has investments there, ONGC Videsh to be precise.
Right.
And India had cozied up to Venezuela in the recent past. But Iran is the real challenge. And we really need to be careful about how things pan out. We don't need to do overstated commentary because we don't know how things will shape up.
Correct.
And we have strategic interests there. Iran has never been our ideological partner. It's been our geographical stroke strategic partner.
That's right.
In that sense, its importance from the land side is extremely, extremely critical. So we'll have to wait and watch. My own sense, based on no evidence as such, is that an army action would be avoided. If it had to happen, it would have happened so far. But they could like to do a repeat of what they did in Venezuela. They would like to strike at the heart of the international, the Iranian political stroke religious establishment, which runs the country for the last 40 years.
Absolutely.
So my take on this, Karthik, is that
something like a surgical strike.
I don't think the army option is still off the table. That's something US has on the table, which it can use at an appropriate time. But right now, I think the advice coming from US allies in that region is to hold off on any kind of attack, because the fear is if US were to attack Iran, let's say do any significant damage, then you're potentially triggering a regional war. So that regional war is actually going to destroy economies of Saudi Arabia,
and,
UAE,
unlike Venezuela,
Qatar,
in Iran, there is
Bahrain, and all these people.
Unlike Venezuela, there is a collateral damage. There are 19 locations which could be in the zone of Iranian repulsion attack.
Absolutely.
So we can't rule it out.
So I don't think anybody would at this stage, at least that is the view coming in, go in for a full-fledged attack on Iran, a military kind
although
of
that option remains with the US.
Although what the White House has also stated that it is an option on the table. Well, with that, let's quickly slip into a very short break. But when we come back, another Trump story, and this time there is another war on, and that war is more internal. It is Donald Trump versus Fed Chair Jerome Powell playing out.